Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the John Mayer Gearline Show. I'm Justin, and today we're here with Gabe, and we're going to talk about the John Mayer 2019 rehearsal show that he was super lucky to be at, and we're going to hear all about it, and we're going to talk about tones and a lot more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. Gabe, thanks so much for hopping on and chatting with me today. This is awesome.
Oh man, it's awesome. Yeah, I watched the past two with Alejandro and you, and the first one with Chandler and Ahmad, and those were great. And
Uh,
I'm eager to see the last one that you did with the Silver Skies, the Nebulas.
yeah, that's going to be a really fun one. I filmed that yesterday with Sam, and we just like good conversation and lots of just it's like rambling and talking about the nebulas and chatting about it, and it was super fun. And I think it's just going to be a good conversation, and that's one of my favorite things about everything that we're doing is getting people from, especially thank God for Zoom and everything. We can chat from here, me in Canada, and you all the way down in San Francisco. This is awesome, and
I'm
this
actually
is
in
just
Los
going to be a good
Angeles.
time. Oh, oh,
Yeah.
you, oh, that, oh, so, forgive me. Yeah, that's right. You moved to LA. Might have to meet up at LA Vintage or something like that and check it
I
out.
mean,
Because
yeah, I was just there this past week at LA Vintage.
how was it?
It's a great store. I mean, the only it's in Burbank, and Burbank is far. Um, but they had 14 two rocks, so you could play classic reverb, traditional clean, Sterlings, two TS1s, and they had like the studio signature ones, the and a 1x12 cabinet, combos, everything.
Probably the largest single collection of two rocks for sale in the world.
Yeah, and they carry all the Benson stuff, Danocasters, a lot of Landau Strats, carry right cabinets. They're a cool store, really cool store.
Sure. When I've been down there, I've only ever checked out True Tone in Santa Monica. I'm not sure if you've gone in there.
Yeah, my buddy Dave, he got all his John Mayer strats from there, the original ones.
Yeah, the
Um,
Fenders.
yeah, and he got his black one there, not the custom shop one, but the regular production model black one
Right.
for a single there, maybe like 7, 8 years ago.
Wow. And that's the
And now,
one where it's not relict. It's like, I think they did 500 of those.
yeah, and the I guess the piano black with the gold hardware, and he has the ink case with all the stickers on him, everything.
I,
And
I,
now it's
I
I guess
want that custom in case so badly. I got the regular black one and I see the really swanky one and
yeah.
I want so badly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple times on Reverb with the Cypress Mika strap or Mika strat. I DM'd the people like, "Hey, how much for just the case?" And they're like, "No, that's impossible."
And it's funny, but there have been the odd one or two for sale on Reverb, and I think I saw one for going for around 1,000 Canadian. Yeah, I can't justify spending that much on a case,
Well,
but I wonder if it fit
it's it,
my Silver Sky. That'd be
well, it's funny.
interesting.
A lot of people, I think, were upset that the Silver Skies didn't come with hard shell cases. Only the
Oh,
first.
and we talked about that actually in the episode Sam and I shot yesterday because I had the grief of the hard shell case that I bought for my Silver Sky. It doesn't fit, and so I had a good rant in that one
Oh
about
yeah,
why does the Silver Sky not come with the hard shell case? And I'm still, like I said, it's the one thing about that guitar that I don't like, and I'll constantly complain about, but it's perfect every other way for me.
well, here I'll play devil's advocate because I didn't mind that because when just in my experience, when you're moving around a lot and you're doing gigs, a hard shell case isn't practical. It's practical. Sorry, it's practical when you're making sure that it's safe at home. But the moment you're leaving the house and you're carrying an amp with you and a pedal board, backpack or the backpack cases always win, in my opinion.
That's very true. And I guess maybe for me, if it came in something like the Fender Mirror in case bag, that was a lot more durable and yeah, I'm just super confident like lugging that thing around in,
Yeah.
then I'd be fine. But this feels too soft. And I'm not sure because after the episode we filmed yesterday with Sam, I actually noticed another nick on my Nebula on the front side of it. And I don't know if that was from transporting it out here or wherever, but obviously the finish is, I think, very soft to begin with. But if it came with a hard shell case, for at least for me and what I predominantly use it for, like it won't leave the house that often. A hard shell case would be just the safe of mind for me. But definitely, I think the best would be like a in case style gig bag for sure, because I think
Yeah.
these are a little too flimsy.
Yeah, it's one that I on my back I feel comfortable, but like if I was doing a lot of moving in the car, for example, or doing a lot putting it down, a little scary sometimes. But I mean, PRS are I think make the best modern guitars, and I think the Silver Sky is no different. It's a great Strat style guitar. Doesn't compare to a Strat in my opinion. It's its own thing. Um, and I think if you're looking for a Silver Sky, if you played one at your music store, I'm almost certain that you can order one from Sweetwater and it'll feel the exact same.
The quality control is phenomenal.
Yes. The only difference you'll see is maybe you'll see a bigger flame on the neck or the weight difference. But
Right.
feel and sound wise, I'm almost positive they'll all sound the same.
And I think that's kind of the cool argument too for comparing the Rosewoods from 2018 and 19 versus Rosewoods 2020 going forward. Because in on the Gear Lounge, someone was asking me right before we hopped on here, what is the actual difference in the neck from 2019 to 2020? And I said I didn't notice a huge difference even because there's such a minute tweaking, but it's PRS. If they can do something 0.5% better, they're gonna do it 0.5% better. And you might not notice, but they know and they're gonna do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it sometimes sounds a little too perfect for a Strat, but I mean, you could say that you can have a vintage style Strat and a Silver Sky, and you can cover a lot of things.
100%. So hey, it's an excuse to have too. And I,
Yeah.
I I got the Fender Mayor Sig and I got the Silver Sky, and I obviously find myself gravitating towards the Silver Sky. But there's stuff and tones out of the Fender that I don't necessarily think you could get out of the Silver Sky, and the way it feels and the way I find myself playing on that guitar versus the Silver Sky are almost two completely different things for the most part. I don't think you can compare them really at all.
That's why you have a ton of guitars in your arsenal because they're all different. They're all different paintbrushes.
Exactly.
As I remember, I was at the PRS artist place in Burbank, and that's their argument why you have a lot of guitars because they all do different things. If it's something very small or something huge, but they all have their own use. You may have a number one, but your number one can't necessarily do maybe if you're playing a Les Paul. I mean, you can sort of play like that Texas blues on a Les Paul, but you want to Strat an E flat, and that can get you closer and in the ballpark better. So yeah, I mean, they're all tools.
I agree with you there, man. It's why we like to have all these excuses to be like, and they're not just excuses, but you'd be like, well, I need one with humbuckers. I need one that's always in E flat. I need one for this sound and one for that.
Yeah,
And that's why,
yeah, yeah,
like, you're a Les Paul guy, I believe, mainly, right? If you had to
yeah.
gun to your head, you're
Les Paul. Yeah, I mean, I played Les Paul because I saw Zach Mooneyham in School of Rock play one,
and
and
that was it for you.
yeah, I mean, my first guitar was Epiphone Les Paul 100 in Sunburst, because I was like, oh, that's the one that Zach Mooneyham played in School of Rock, and then I realized, oh, he played a Gibson. And then I got my first Gibson when I was like maybe 14, 15, and then I got my Les Paul that I play now when I finished high school, and I've played it every day ever since. It's had a headstock break when I was at Berkeley. That was a classic.
Yeah.
Um, Changed close-ons to Grovers recently, or a couple times actually. Um, Other than that, changed pickups once, but they're going strong. It's a beast. Yeah, I can do everything on that guitar.
Yeah, I love Les Pauls too. They're great guitars, and the same thing. I started up being like Jimmy Page was my god, and watching
Yeah,
hit like all Led Zeppelin tunes and everything. Then that got into the whole Guns N' Roses and everything, and that was me to start off with was Les Paul right into a Marshall, just crank and
yeah,
obnoxiously loud, and that was kind of it for me. But then Now I'm pretty confident, for me at least, person, gun to my head, I'm a Strat guy for sure. So Gabe, let's talk about that rehearsal show because I'm dying to hear about it. Because I remember when it first came out, and I think you did an Instagram live during the show, maybe, or anyways, you posted some clips on it, and number one, you
Yeah.
were as close as the camera is to me to John.
So at the time I was working with Mason a lot. And I remember at Namn, that's 2019, Dave Ryan came to the booth. I was like, you should come to rehearsal. We have rehearsal starting, I think, from 4 weeks after Namn. So you guys should come by. And I remember getting a call from Hunter, who also worked with Mason, saying that um, we're going soon to rehearsal. And like this week? And I was like, no, I think next week. And fast forward to the following week, the Thursday, I think we got confirmed that we're going. And that's when the first one already happened. We was like, oh man, what's this happening? It's a show. It's a friends and family show. Oh man, we're going. Like, oh my God. And that day, I think I told you already on Messenger, was crazy because at like 7:38 in the morning, we were already at the Sunset Marquis Hotel in Hollywood doing a rig for Zapata from Gary Clark Jr.'s band.
Crazy.
And that took the whole entire day, one lunch break for like about an hour. But that whole day was filming, soldering, get the whole thing, the whole pedal board condensed into a smaller one. And then came 7:30, and it was like, okay, we got to go now because we have to go to Henson, which is on La Brea. And so it's at 8 o'clock on the invite. So we go, we park. There's 2 food trucks. I think it was grilled cheese and ice cream, and it's nothing crazy. Now you just park, and it was the most relaxed setting you could imagine. People were there just hanging out with their family. I remember Aaron was there with his family eating at the food truck. People were unloading stuff from their car, about to go in. It was just a huge hang. Was lucky enough to talk to John before we went in, because you could also leave and go in anytime you wanted. The door was open for the stage at all times. And we talked to John for a bit. He was super cool. And I remember I walked past Pino. I was like, oh my God, you're Pino Palladino. Oh my God, you're amazing. And he was like, thanks, man. And he just walked out. And the setup in Henson was a huge empty room. That was converted to one side stage, but it was all level with us. There was no actual stage there. And on the left side was all of the gear, all like the tech stuff, John's guitar tech world. There were, I think, 4 or 5 guitar boats full of his guitars. I mean, I remember seeing the red 594 that he used with Dead & Company in 2017. That only had 3 knobs and the switch at the bottom.
Yeah.
Seeing the silver. Seeing the Super Eagle in there, I remember as well. And that's where Isaiah's tech was as well, and David's tech was, and Renee's corner was there as well. And there was couches everywhere, and it was basically first come, first serve where you wanted to stand. And so we get there, and we're just, I guess, hanging out, just seeing this whole stage 10 feet in front of us. And we don't know if we can take pictures. We don't know if we can go on the stage to see the gear close up or anything. And I remember somebody asked, "Can we go on and take photos?" And they're like, "Yeah, do whatever you want, share whatever you want." And then the question was the pedalboard, because I mean, all the gearheads want.
That was the big one, was his pedal board for that rehearsal show.
Yeah, and I remember, I think John was there asking people as well, like, "Are pedal boards okay? Photos? Are those photos okay?" And like, "Yeah, but you can't share social media." But what we could share, what I think stuff that I sent online on Instagram, were the videos of the actual songs happening. I have photos that I'll send you of the Dumbo, the 2Rock, that was 004. You see all the settings on it. 2Rock was there also. Super Ego was already on the stand when we got there. And it was that same day also, I guess I Just Feel Like it came out early in the morning.
So you got to hear that song performed for the first time.
For the first time, yeah. I'll send you some clips of that. I posted the solo on the Gear Lounge Facebook page.
And that was an amazing performance. For me, I wish he added something like that into the real thing, where it almost like gets really upbeat and, you know, his guitar is still going hard and he's kind of singing it out. I love that version of it when he plays it like that. I think it's killer.
And I remember he played Queen of California, Love is a Verb, Stop This Train. I guess I Just Feel Like, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. All the hits except Gravity. I don't think they Gravity. I don't remember. In Your Atmosphere.
He played In Your Atmosphere.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have on my phone. I have a clip of that one. I'll send you the set list as well. I think I have a photo of that. And I guess if we're going to pedalboard talk, that pedalboard was almost, or the start of what ended up being at the end of that tour in the summer of 2019, or I guess even the winter 2019.
Yeah, because that was kind of his basis. And one of the main questions I wanted to ask you was, during that whole rehearsal, was he like switching, and we'll get into all this, was he like switching things in and out in between songs, or was he with flopping gear? Because it was a rehearsal, I'm sure he was testing lots of different things. Well,
that show he didn't test a lot, I don't remember. But what he did have is, if you remember those Paradise Valley videos that came out on YouTube, and the first one is like, I'm a pedal collector. He opens this drawer that's all pedals.
Yeah.
There were, I think, 2 or 3 of those big, I guess, what would you call them, setups in his tech corner. So at any moment in time, he could, if he wanted to, go and change the pedal automatically. I guess they'll be called the touring cases. He had 2 or 3 of those just full of pedals. Because I remember we were talking with Isaiah Sharkey's tech, and he said all those tour cases are just pedals for John. And I was like 2 or 3 of those.
That's nuts.
And yeah, I mean, all the standards were there, as we already know. Shout out Alejandro Jamir Gear on Instagram.
Shout out Alejandro.
Yeah, he's the one I think that, I guess, sort of demystified the board. Is perfect to everybody. But seeing it in the flesh before everything happened, it was cool and also interesting that to see, oh, there are Chase Bliss pedals on there that I don't think that I would have guessed he would use, but he used, and also the Smoky Signal pedal as well. That's insane prices already.
Yeah, you're talking about unobtainium, right?
Yeah. And then the psych loop and the chorus overdrive loop, Boss CE2, Clown was there, Aquapus, Kirkland Boost, all Mogami cables, all soldered. And just like, it was unreal. I mean, at the end of the show, or at one part of the show, Megan Trainor and her husband just snuck right up next to me and sat next to me, which was crazy. I remember Eric Stone Street was there from Modern Family. Jeff Ross was there. A lot of like a guy named Andrew Watt, who's a huge producer here in LA, who does hits for Ariana Grande, Cardi B, Miley Cyrus was there. Alec Benjamin was there.
Wow.
I remember seeing him. And it was about 2 hours, a full show, basically length. And it was just an experience of a lifetime. And thankfully, I now know more people in that camp, I guess I can say. And they're just all amazing people, and just an experience that I don't think will ever happen again. I don't know, but it was just unreal.
Well, like I was saying earlier, when I saw that first picture or video you posted, and you were right there.
Yeah, we got
Amazing.
there early. We got there early. I think we had a sandwich or something, but we went in right in when we could, and we were literally right in front of him the whole show. And he would tell jokes, and everything. The audience died laughing, and he could also hear you when you were talking. So if you wanted to like have a dialogue with him, you could. I mean, he did it with a couple of people. Like, I'll DM you that later, buddy, to his friends, and they could hear him perfectly.
That's hilarious. So just a completely, like you say, chill and fun atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, the end was like, he finished the show like he would any other show, and he was like, "All right, guys, thanks for coming. We'll see you guys later. We're just gonna hang out for a bit and call it a night, basically." And he just walked out, and he was talking with his friends. We left pretty early because we still had to go back and finish Zapata's board. But if you wanted, you probably could talk to him for a couple minutes and say, "Hey, man, what are you using for this? Thanks for this. Thanks. Hope you have a good day. Everything. Love the new song." And you could have done that with the whole band if you wanted to. They were all just like hanging out. If you had questions for them, they could answer.
Were they, like, if you wanted to get pictures with them, were they cool for that, or?
Oh yeah. It was just, like I said, the only photo that wasn't allowed to be shared was the pedalboard photo.
And do you have any insight as to why he wouldn't allow the pedalboard to be seen? Because I know we talked about it on the other episode, but
I don't know. I have a couple of that pedalboard shots on my Mac, but my idea is I get it. I get it in a way that, like, if for example, if you had a Kemper or a Helix, and you worked super hard to profile your amps with the correct microphone, the correct speaker placement, everything, and let's say you literally nailed it, this like the Van Halen tone, for example. I know it's completely different from John's, but let's just use that for example. You nailed the Brown sound, and you had a YouTube channel, and people were like, "Are you going to put those for sale?" You would say, you could debate saying, "No, I worked 8 hours to get this tone right. I'm not just going to put it out there for free." Right? I'm not just going to put it out there for you to get and say that you got it, because I did all the work. That's my argument saying no sharing of the photos, because he probably took a lot of time to put that board together, and saying that I'm not just going to put it out there for the world to see. Maybe. I mean, there's no crazy pedal on that's like, oh my God, like how does he have that or whatever. Everything is pretty standard.
And that's the thing that I don't really get. And part of me felt like not bad for doing that massive breakdown of his pedal board, but just kind of like, I didn't want, if John was watching that, I wouldn't want him to be like, oh, like really guys, like you're gonna nitpicking, but I don't know. It's
also, that's something that's, if you picture it on the stage, it's always on there. So somebody was going to have that picture anyways, and somebody would have posted it, and then somebody would have found it, and then just spreads like wildfire.
It would have gotten figured out eventually by someone too. And I think that's what we talked about as well, where if he was really adamant about hiding it, then I feel like he would have stuck with like the custom audio electronics Bradshaw system, or put it and had it all in a rack completely out of sight, or something where the board wasn't just raw on stage.
Yeah, and not a different subject matter, still with his pedal board, was we went to the Leon Bridges show when he came out at the Greek Theater in, I guess, August or September 2018. And that time, his pedal board was already out on the floor, and the whole time, also because it was outdoors, it was covered by something. But I do remember seeing it on the side stage with Renee sitting in front of it, just monitoring his station, basically. And I guess since all these tours were inside in stadiums, they were in an amphitheater. So if it wasn't amphitheaters, it would have been more common to see the pedal board shots, maybe. But since it's stadiums, that maybe they just have it on there all the time, and whoever has that photo, like the one that you talked about with the guitar tech in front of an empty stadium, and you see the pedal board clearly. You know, that's a photo. It's like, hey, take a photo of me, and then the pedal board just happens to be there.
And even John, when he was sharing some posts on Instagram and everything, I would laugh because he'd share it where you get half of it, and then his leg or whatever it would be, he'd show you half of it, and he'd be up. So even himself, because he runs his own Instagram now, that he was okay with sharing some of it, but I guess he just didn't want a blatant "here you go," which again to me is kind of weird too, because you think that back on the Battle Studies tour, he did a rig rundown. They did a rig rundown on his gear.
You think to the 2013 Born and Raised tour, one of his first Instagram posts was his pedal board from that Philadelphia, I think, warm-up show.
Right, yeah.
And then he added another katana, and then later evolved with Octafuzz and a lot of other stuff. But I just think it's maybe just like, this is the way I do it, and I don't want to share it. Maybe.
I'm going to make it. If you guys want to figure it out, I'm not going to make it easy for you. You have to work for it.
Yeah, and I guess you can argue that, well, the deep end of all this tone hunting, whatever, is that you have to realize that, one, there's no switcher on the board, but there's maybe 10 foot of cable, maybe on that pedal board, maybe a little less, maybe, but it's all right. If the guitar cable is, let's say, 20 feet, if he's going through another 10 feet of cable, another 20 feet of cable to go back to his amp, that's all adding up to the tone. Or I guess maybe you say taking off some high end, but that's all part of his tone, which is another topic of discussion, because you say, oh,
I was
maybe
just
you
gonna
can do.
say, you think about the trio board as well when he used those the Pete Cornish cables, and he kept them full, like they're fully wound like instrument cables in between each pedal.
Bells and 8412, yeah, directional cables, yeah. I mean,
It,
yeah. Again, it's like, still, that's, let's say, maybe huge guitar cable, small. I think there were 3 feet each patch cable, maybe.
they looked weird, and I didn't realize that they were like looked to be like premium cables. I remember I was talking with Alejandro on it, and I said that they looked like the ones you just go to a Guitar Center and pull out of a bin. I didn't think they looked like anything crazy, but I
Well,
assume they're
I mean,
probably
if we're talking about now, I mean, like, for example, Mogami 2319 is a pretty small cable, well, in diameter. Um, so it wouldn't look like, well, I guess it's the same diameter as any guitar center cable. Um, the only thing that could make it look different is the plugs. If you use these switchcraft plugs, or I can show you. Hold on. So, like, the new hotshot cables are these ones called square plugs. So this is a straight
okay.
angle one, and then this is the equivalent to the pancake plug, so much smaller.
Right, very, very low profile.
Yeah. So the only thing that could maybe, if you were super into the pedal board, that can make a difference, or what it is maybe the plugs, maybe.
Right.
But I remember all Mogami 2319 cables. And I guess it was like the switchcraft plugs, I think. And then I think the instrument cable was Analysis Plus.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I think from your pictures when everyone was looking on MSM and everything. I think they were, yeah, Analyst Plus. And that's something I got looking
Yeah.
to getting to for my personal rig is upping the instrument cables and everything. And Two Rock just, I think, today released their instrument cables. So that might be something I'm going to be checking out because my Ernie Ball ones I find just break all the time.
Yeah, instrument cables are, I get, maybe for you also, for me personally, it's like once you have the brand, you stick with them because you know it's always consistent. Another thing also have is the key is the silent plug on the guitar side, like the Neutrik plugs or maybe the switchcraft plugs. So when you disconnect it, there's no excess noise.
Oh, wow.
Um, um, silent, um, silent plugging, I guess, is the guitar cable. I guess the
I,
correct term is the cable. I guess what they called.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard a bit about those, and those sound like something definitely that we
Yeah,
should
I
all be
mean,
getting.
yeah, it's just so when you unplug, there's no guitar noise. Guitar cables are just, I mean, it all adds up tone wise, which is the rabbit hole that we all, I guess, are in.
Exactly. And I mean, I think you've gotten really, really close to nailing his tone and in kind of your own way as well. But I mean, you listen to you playing that super ego through your board in the Hot Rod Deluxe, and it's instant Dead and Company tones right there.
Well, thank you. I guess the idea is, well, I'll first say the Howard Deluxe is the best amp in the world. I said that to my friends. I said that on Instagram. I think it's the best amp in the world. Um, if I think the idea is to get the most out of your amp without trying to get a new one. So if you want to get that JM tone, try to get it with whatever you have, whether it's a Howard Deluxe or DeVille or a Blues Junior or a Princeton or a PV or a Boss Katana or whatever. Yes, if you want the tone or I guess the best DNA of the tone, you go for a Two Rock. Back to what I say, I think it's try to get the most out of what you can from what you have. So the Howard Deluxe, I think it's the best clean platform, affordable, I guess you could say, clean platform. And then it's just, if you take it all back, the John Mayer Tone is the great clean platform. And then you just add in whatever you want after that. Or if you want the super JM tone and the boutique tone, you go for 2-Rock and then hi-fi sound. They're both great.
Right.
And if you can, like I said, if you can play a Hard Deluxe, you can play anything. That's my idea, my motto.
No, I totally agree. And I wanted to do an episode, like a full dedicated one on the Hot Rod Deluxe at some point. Because I know you and Sam have both used the Hot Rod Deluxe quite religiously. And Sam just upgraded, but he still has it and swears by it as well. And like I've said before, and I'll say it again, when I first heard both of you guys play, it sounded incredible. And I later learned that that was a Hot Rod Deluxe. It just blew me away and absolutely floored me. Because I was never like, to be fair, I'd never really done that much research into that amp before, but then to hear the tones you guys were getting was just like, wow, that thing's incredible.
Yeah, the Hard Deluxe also, I think in any amp, you should try to push it. I remember at Berkeley, Tomo, one day we were hanging out, I think, or maybe during lessons, he was like, when you set your amp, set it so when you're on 10 on your guitar, it's too loud for the environment you're in. So then you do all the controlling on the guitar volume. So you have, if you're playing all the time on volume 8 on your guitar, you have somewhere to go after that. You have still to 10 to go on your guitar knob. So there's less compression. So that, yes, you have somewhere to go generally. And then if you had pedals, yeah, it may be too loud, but again, you may still get this idea tone or the same bass tone at volume 8, but when you go to volume 10 on your guitar, one, it'll be too loud, obviously, but that'll be the full tone.
Right. And I think that's something that a lot of people are still learning and understanding when they're trying to play and sound like John, is that he doesn't sit at 10. He's playing lower down, and he's exactly like you do. Set everything up to run with your guitar at 8, and then when you crank it up, you have that place to go and you have that next level.
Yeah, and then I think also is set your maybe your rig to your highest output guitar, which for me is humbuckers, or my Les Paul to be more exact. So everything is based around that humbucker tone with the Les Paul. So then if I do put a Strat in it, like the Silver Sky, it sounds weaker, but there's still volume there to go dynamics-wise. So everything is still louder, I guess you could say. Like if I were to use a Tube Screamer, it's still pretty loud. There's still a huge volume boost. But with the Les Paul, it might be a little bit less. But when you want to do that solo, you want to jump out. You don't want to play the solo in your apartment or your house, but then when you go live, you press the Tube Screamer and you're out of the mix. That is not fun.
Exactly. And that totally makes sense. And I don't think anyone else could have worded it better than that. And that's
I've been there. Maybe you have too. It's like you everything sounds good at home, but when the moment you get in a band situation, it's like, oh man, where am I in this mix? Or solo comes over and you just go from here and you just go down. Same with maybe if you put too much gain, you don't get louder, you just get squished more compression. Which is another interesting thing with John's tone. 3 overdrive pedals, and sometimes he has 2 of them on at the same time. And they're mid boost, so they're all doing almost the same thing, maybe. It's a lot of questions you can dive down.
Oh, 100%. And I guess coming back around to talk about the 2019 World Tour, one of the questions that I had was compared to did you ever go and see one of the actual shows in the 2019 World Tour?
No, I didn't. I wanted to go to the Forum shows, but we were flying back from Florida that same day, and I remember seeing on the plane on JetBlue, I was like, "Oh man, they're playing Continuum again."
Yeah.
And then we saw him at Hotel Cafe in February, and the first thing I told him was like, "Man, good seeing you, John. Hope all is well. I apologize for not coming to one of the LA shows. I was in Florida." And he goes, "No worries, man. It's no big deal."
And well, let's talk about that. How was that show with David Ryan Harris? That was the first show that and the only show he's played with the Nebula too, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
that was that was I think post Nam. Yeah, that was after Nam.
Yeah.
So Nebula came out on Nam, and that was like the big hit for PRS. Also, the Maple.
I was gonna say the big hit for Nam in general.
Yeah, I remember last year. It's. I think you have to realize that John is a world class musician, but he's also a celebrity. I think that's what differentiates him from a lot of people. He's a celebrity. Unless it doesn't feel like it, but he is a celebrity. He's a Hollywood celebrity. Goes to Hollywood parties, goes a lot of the Hollywood people. He's a celebrity. So I remember when 2018 happened, and he came to PRS one day to talk to the dealers and to say thanks for stocking the Silver Skies. I really appreciate everything. That news spread like wildfire on the phones. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, John Mayer's here! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!" I remember I ran up to the third floor of the convention center to try and find him. And by the time he was already gone. So when fast forward to 2019 NAMM, I'm driving there and I see all these maple fretboard Silver Skies and then Nebula. And it's like, oh my God, this thing is unreal. Silver Skies are already great guitars, but now all these colors, maple fingerboard, and this one's called Nebula, one of 500, I think,
Yeah.
for sale. And I think that was one of our first stops that day that they came out. And that was behind the case. And I remember saying like, "Oh man, like, how does one get one?" And they ended up being this, I think, a little more expensive than retail price for a normal Silver Sky.
Yeah.
And then all of them were already sold to dealers. So at that point, I guess if you're interested, was trying to find a dealer that got one.
And that's exactly how I got mine. When I saw it was signature dealers were getting them, Googled signature dealers PRS and started hitting them up until I found one that I could get one for that next day.
Yeah. I mean, and I saw some people on the forum page still don't have theirs. They're still waiting for theirs, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah, Mark. Forgive me. I believe his name is Mark. From the Facebook lounge group lounge. He actually got his today. He
Oh
just
wow.
got his. So
Yeah.
ironically, like after we did the episode on it, talking, being like, "Oh man, that still sucks." Like, so it sounds like they are finishing up deliveries, but very late
Yeah.
still.
Sorry, hold on. Yeah. So fast forward to February, this show happens with David Ryan Harris, and we go to the first night, and we're saying to ourselves, "Oh, he'll be there the second night. We're assuming he's in town. He'll be there." Um, and I remember we talked to Sean Hurley because a buddy might know Sean pretty well, and I met him at NAMM and I freaked out. I'm like, "Oh my God, you played with Alicia Keys, Vertical Horizon, John Mayer, Sarah Bareilles. Oh my God." Then you should come to the show. It'd be fun. A lot of friends there. And so we go, and first night was unreal. So much fun. And then I come back and say, "Hey, I think it's only $20. I'll buy another ticket. Buy two more for the next day." And we go, we wait in line, and then we see the band starting to slowly come in. Because Hotel Cafe is a pretty small venue. There's only two stages, and there's one entrance. So one entrance you go, and then you either go to the right to the one stage or to the left to the main stage. And so they start coming in, and then someone brings in, I remember this Vibrolux, I think it was that he was using.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh," and we didn't know he was there still. We just thought, "Oh, cool amp is coming in. Wonder whose it is." And then we go, we sit down, because Hotel Cafe is also like this. You go in, you sit wherever you want. So if you're the first one in, you get sit up right up close. We do that, and long and behold, we see the now infamous shot, I guess, of his the Vibrolux, I think it was, or Vibroverb, and this small pedal board that was tuner, katana, I think Klon and TS and Octopus, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Tuner. I don't even think the clone was on. I think it was
So
just
there's
Tuner
Katana.
Katana, TS10, and then it was just that, and then the
Yeah,
Octopus. So instantly you
yeah,
knew. You were like, "That's
yeah.
John."
There were a couple times where like another instance was with when I saw J-Rad in 2018. 2 nights in LA. Second night, I got front row stage. I see another amp, and I'm like, "Oh, that's John," and it was him. So at the Hotel Cafe show, we see that set up, and we're like, "Oh man, we're front row. We're gonna see him. When does he come? We don't know. How long will he be here? We don't know. We don't know anything. But his setup is here. Show starts. Amazing show. David and the band were unreal. And I forget the way he said it, but he said it on radio. My friend John Mayer, and John walked from the back of Hotel Cafe because the dressing room is in the back of it. So if you want to get to the stage, you have to walk through all of the audience.
Wow.
So he walked through security all by himself and just came up with the guitar, just plugged in, and I'm assuming as you've seen in that, a lot of people have seen already, he played the performance, fitting in with the band, which was so good, especially because he's just playing as a sideman. No, so he's just playing lead stuff and just texturized stuff for the songs. That was unreal, and that's what to show you that. I mean, he could pull up with anything; he'll still sound like himself. I mean, if he wanted, he could play a deluxe reverb, and it'll sound like him. That also shows you, I guess, the standard pedal board that you can get, that you can make on your own, basically. Tuner, clean boost, a lead tone in the TS10, and a slapback delay in the Octopus. Those are all pedals you can get at Guitar Center, except the TS10, but you can get variations of that.
Yeah, bonsai or whatever.
And that was just a great show, and the Nebula sounded really good. And it almost looked purple, like just strictly purple, that show. And then come to realize, oh, that was figured after this Fear of God jacket, I think it was. The iridescent colorway, the Fear of God jacket. And I remember we left, and I raced out. I spoke to him for, I think, 2 minutes. And then within 5 minutes, he was gone.
Yeah.
In and out. But that was like, that I think just for me personally reigns at top of me seeing him, or one of the top shows I've seen him, because I was so close and it was a different setting than a stadium.
Exactly. It was intimate. It was even like a different context as well to see him play, like you said, as just a lead, putting the textures and doing the solos over it. It's seeing him kind of do a bit of a different thing and in a different role that you would never get the opportunity to see any other time as well.
Yeah, and the show isn't his. He's just a part of it. Which is the other thing, right? It's David Ryan Harris's show with his friends, who also happen to be, I guess, 4 or 5 members of the touring band. Him, Isaiah, I guess John for that show, Carlos and Tiffany. Now that's half the touring band, basically, or most of it. So, which also is like sports. The more you play with the same person, the more you know them without thinking. So you know, at this point he may do this, or he will do this at this part. So it's all like camaraderie and, I guess, team chemistry, as you can call it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why, I mean, Dave, Ryan, Harrison, Isaiah, they've been with them for as long as they have, and the three of them together, they're amazing. And honestly, like, throw
Yeah.
Pino in that mix as well. And I just wish that Steve would get back out on tour as much, but I know he doesn't really like to tour around as much anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much like sports. The more you're with the same people, the more you know what they'll do without you telling them what to do. And so you're in the comfort level where you know he'll do this at this time, he'll do this at this time, and so it's one less thing to think about almost.
Exactly, it's completely automated at that point. You don't have to think about anything that
exactly.
happens.
And you're not trying to decide who's going to do this role this tour, or who's going to do this role this tour. You'll say, oh, I'll call them right there, available. They're here with me. If not, then I got to find somebody else.
So I wanted to talk briefly a little bit more about that rehearsal show you were at, because something I thought from just, and this is all just listening to clips from that show versus other ones, his tone sounded a lot different to me, at least, like from listening to, you know, something from the London O2 Arena or the Forum versus in that setting. Now, I'm not sure if that's the room or what, but do you have any insight on that?
I don't know, honestly. The mics on his cab, for instance, if we're talking just guitar tone, seemed pretty standard for him, the SM7B. And those mics can handle a lot of sound pressure, a lot. The room could have been a factor. I mean, it wasn't a crazy acoustic treated room. It's just a big empty room that was filled with people and gear and there. I looked on the pictures. I don't remember the amount of reverb, for example, on the Dumble. I think it was maybe turned off. Also, I think I said on the Facebook page that I was right in front of them. I was right in front, so I got the whole guitar tone in my face, which is also why
just hit by it.
Yeah, and the other thing is the reason why they all use inner monitors is for the reason that the moment they're out of their frequency range or their spot, they don't hear as much of any other thing on stage. So this is why the in-ears are there, so they can hear their own stuff, but they can hear everything that's happening around the stage. That's why when you see photos of if he does Instagram live streams of a show, it sounds totally different because all the sound is going away from you rather than coming at you.
Right.
That makes sense. So that could have been because I was right in the line of fire of his rig. Other than that, I don't know, because I know it wasn't that signature. It wasn't super high sustain, lush reverb, nice pillow. It was a different, more direct tone.
Exactly, and I'm not saying it was bad bad by any means. It didn't sound like the classic, and it didn't sound like the continuity wasn't there from that show to the other ones. And I kind of laughed. I'm
Yeah.
like, was it the J mod making that difference? You don't know.
The JMod, that's a different story. That's an amp. I mean, it's a cool amp, dark amp, and has to be cranked loud. That amp. But yeah, I think it's just like a lot of different things that I wouldn't know, but maybe for them it sounded perfect. You know, maybe it was like the perfect mix for them, totally. But that's, if I could ask him, like, oh man, or if I can go back, it'd be like, let me examine this room one more time and see. Maybe if I was in a different spot, it would sound totally different.
Yeah, or if you were sending, you know, like a few rows back, like you say, just not getting completely blasted.
Or maybe.
Sorry, go ahead, Gabe.
I would say maybe if I was on Isaiah's side, would I have just gotten most of his sound only, as opposed to the other side of the stage. So, a lot of things, a lot of variables in that.
Exactly, so many variables. I just didn't know if you had any insight or anything you might know, because that's one thing that kind of was perplexing with me. I also wondered, I forget if we've talked about this before, you remember that box, whatever it was that Josh from JHS was building, was that your show, or was that a different rehearsal night?
That was the show I went to also. That was, I guess if he's standing like this, it would have been to his left. Yeah, to his left, yeah. What was in there? I don't know.
No idea.
No idea. I remember that case, all I remember had tissues and a Purell hand sanitizer. What was in there? I've heard people saying, oh, it was I think the Clover preamp that JHS makes in a rack version, maybe, I've heard. I think people on the page think it's another amp or a secret amp. I have no idea.
So there's nothing from your view that you could tell if it was activated or anything then, hey? Nothing it was plugged into, or
I don't even think I was like, again, now if I could go back, I'd pay more attention to that also. I'd say, what is this? Or I'd ask him, say, hey man, this is a new device next to you. What is that? Do you mind me asking? But
in the moment, it's so hard because you're just all overwhelmed with being there and taking everything in and trying not to, you know, distract too much from enjoying the moment as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and you're getting a show that you're one of maybe a couple hundred people there, and you're seeing a tour before the tour happens. And I mean, it was just, for example, the first time I met John, I had a breakdown in my car afterwards. I couldn't believe I met him. And then seeing that, I was like, oh man, oh my God, a dream come true to a lot of people. And I was fortunate enough to be in there. And if I could go back, I'd go back with a different outlook, say, okay, now I want to see what's happening gear-wise.
Yeah, and pick it apart then, because I think from that show too, like, we didn't have any clue really of the mysteries and everything, like the blacking out of pedals and kind of what was actually going to happen. Because from your perspective, it looked just like it was just a standard board. Everything was, as far as we're aware. Exactly. So why try and nitpick it? Why try and really question what's going on?
Yeah, and why? I mean, the only reason, I don't think you'd black out a pedal, but you would put tape on the LED switch, because sometimes the LED switch is too powerful. For example, like the Octopus LED light is super bright.
It blinds you.
Yeah. So why do the whole pedal?
And I think it comes back down to what Alejandro and I were talking about, where I think he's modding. He had to have been at that point, because if it's, again, it just doesn't make sense because if it was for purely to hide what he was using, why not do the same thing for every single one? It's just, and like before, we don't know.
Like I said before, why not have a Bradshaw rig?
Yeah, or
at which point nothing will be, unless someone has a stage shot. You're still only seeing a couple pedals that are closest to the exit of the rack. You're not seeing the pedals that are deep into it.
And he could just do like TS10 Katana Aquapus, just have the standard ones right there that you can see, and then everything else would be a total mystery. And ones that he knows that everyone, no doubt, he's going to be using them probably.
Yeah, it's all guitar players.
And it was funny you mentioned having a breakdown the first time you've met John, because you've met John quite a lot actually. And I wanted to do, I was talking with the mod because himself, Tommy, you, and then me, but my story does not compare to any of yours. My story is just, I had like 3 glasses of scotch right afterwards because I almost got to meet him. But I wanted to do a whole episode talking about our experiences and meeting with him. And I remember you posted something or someone did where I think it was at the Hotel Cafe, he said hi Gabe to you and he like remembered who you were. And even in my brief interaction with him, it was on the 2017 World Tour, and I was actually staying in the same hotel he was on the same floor.
Yeah.
And there was security guards all outside one room. And I had a feeling because there was 2 massive tour buses outside the hotel. I saw Pino getting into the bus when I got there. And sure enough, John walks out of the hotel and everyone's losing their minds. And he said hi to me, but his manager was like, no, like, you're getting in the bus. We gotta go. And I was like, are you kidding me? He looked at me, he said hi, and then he left. And that was it. But the point being, he seems like an incredibly nice, down to earth, and like everyone says, down to earth, super friendly, and just a real big sweetheart of a guy, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the first time, if we want to get like super like, oh my god, he's a god icon. The first time I saw him a couple times. I think the 2013 Born and Raised tour. And I saw him in 2016 with Dead & Co. in Boston. But the first time I was like, oh my god, he's actually a real person, was 2017. He came to Berkeley and did a songwriting clinic. And
Wow.
that was just unreal, because that weekend itself was, I think, Mayor Clinic at Berkeley on a Friday, and then Dead & Co. Saturday and Sunday at Fenway Park. And I remember that was like, he just walked out all casually and was like, oh, sorry, I'm late, guys. I was talking to Tomo for Overboard. Sorry. Because they said, ladies and gentlemen, John Mayer. 2 minutes later, John, where are you? He was talking to Tomo about whatever. And then he talked to people about their songs and how they can improve just one chord. I was like, oh man, it's so casual. No, just jeans, t-shirt, pair of joggers, nothing crazy. And then I moved out here, and Visvim, it's not the rabbit hole I can go into, announced they're doing a pop-up store in Brentwood. And they have a country mart there, a couple stores, food. It's a great place to go at the weekend if you want to go to like a cafeteria. They have a cafeteria, gourmet shopping inside. And Visvim opens a store there. And the Thursday before, I'm like to a friend, no, I'm not going to go because I don't want to be in a packed store maybe with a lot of people trying to get stuff. Or what if he's there? What do I say? How do I react? How do I act? Like, oh my god! Oh my god! I'm just freaking out about it.
Because you can't plan. You can't plan for that moment if the first time, especially like he's there. Whatever you think you're gonna say, however you think you're gonna act, that all goes out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was bored that Saturday. I was like, oh, it's I think like 3:00. Closes at 5. I'll go. Nothing to lose. Get it over with. And I get there and I walk to the store. I see Hiroki and his wife Kelsey, and that right there already makes me go crazy. I'm like, oh my god, Hiroki Nakamura's here. Oh my god. And then I see someone I know work there. Say hi to him, and I look to my right, and he was there like on his phone.
No, just so casual.
I texted like 5%. I'm like, oh my god, he's here. People are like, where is he? He's here. Like I didn't know what I was doing. And I approached him and I said, hey, you're, you're my hero. I'm a huge fan. Um, and then we talked for 40 minutes. We were the last two in the store. I said, all right, I gotta head out. Let's take a picture. We took a photo. We took a watch photo. Um, and then that was it. And then I went home. I went in my car and I had a panic attack.
Yeah.
I just broke down. I couldn't believe that happened. Even we talked about guitar, Berkeley. We talked about Visvim, our favorite pieces. I said, hey, you go finish, purchase whatever you want. I'll stay here and we can talk in a bit. Don't make me hold you back from whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did that, and then approached me and said, so Gabe, what are your favorite pieces? And I said, oh man, where do I start? And I said, Lamos, Brigadier Boots, and then some of the Visvim people also joined us, and we talked about, yeah, it's cool because the Wabanaki boots that I wore in 2013 a lot, I had a lot of pairs, and now I'm down to, I think, 2 more pairs. They're dead stock, and if I want to, I can get them resold. And then we were there, and then he left, and I didn't see him again till I was like, all right, John, I'll see you at Dodger Stadium. The Nets was like, yeah, man, see you there. And then I see him there. I think before the third song, it was like they braked. I was like, John. And he goes, oh, Gabe, what's up, man? And I went to stage, which is another time I broke down. I'm like,
He knew my name.
You're at a dead show. Get it together. You're in public. You're in a Dodger Stadium. Get in the moment. Then Leon Bridges' show, we talked again. We were backstage, and he goes, Gabriel, right? I'm like, oh my god, remember my name. And then I left. I told my buddy Hunter, that was so cool. And he goes, that was awesome.
And probably every time you get a little bit more casual about it, a little bit more casual, and
yeah, just like, hey man, how you been? Oh, did you see these new Visvim pants? They're awesome. Denim braces. Oh my god, who would have thought? And then fast forward there to JRAD, November 2018. I just gave him I think he gave me a nod. He saw me in the first row, and then a rehearsal show, and then I guess Last Hotel Cafe. I mean, he's an awesome guy. He if you want to talk to him about whatever, he'll talk to you about it. He's just like he is on Instagram Live, and just super cat. And he'll talk to you about anything. He'll take a photo with you. He'll greet you as if you're his friend and everything. And I mean, a couple of friends of mine have also met him through backstage experiences on the tour, and they've had the same reaction. Like if they've done a couple meet and greets with him, they go, "Oh man, welcome to the extended family. I remember you from this show." So he knows who he'll remember you. I know that for sure. Whether it's because of the clothing you're wearing, or if you're wearing something he likes, or just your enthusiasm, or I guess maybe your personality, he'll remember you. That's for sure.
yeah. No, that's crazy, and that's for sure me next tour once COVID's over. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll fly anywhere to do backstage at this point. I need to get redemption from almost getting to have a conversation with the guy, and I'm gonna tell him, I'm like, Edmonton, Canada, 2017. You petted a lady's dog, took like 5 photographs with these chicks, and then looked over to me and said, "Hey man, how you doing?" And then I was like, and then your tour manager grabs your Bape hoodie with like the shark print on the head, grabs it and it's like, John, we gotta go. And he's like, guys, I'm sorry, I love you all, and we'll see you tonight. And I'm like, he was there, and now he's gone.
We missed it. When? Just now.
I was like, and I will tell him that and be like, so this is me redeeming that moment.
Yeah, there were a couple times when I was at Berkeley that when the Dead shows, I remember my friends and I were like, where are they staying? Where are they? And then in November, the November Dead shows in Boston at the TD Garden, my friend Alex and I, we went in the freezing cold to the Four Seasons. It was me, Alex, and his girlfriend Rachel. We went to the Four Seasons, and we're like, here's a tour bus. It's right here. We're in front of it. Let's wait like 20 minutes. It was freezing cold. And he didn't come out, but we knew he was staying there. We knew it because that's where everyone stays when they go to play at TD Garden or even Fenway Park. And the show happens, and then he goes to the Four Seasons for the after party. They rented the whole bar. My buddy Tomo was there, and yeah, I'm like, oh man, I told you he was there, and he was there.
But I guess you hear him talk, and he doesn't like to stay even in the same city. Like he does his show, and he's gone, which makes sense. To stay in the same city after you just played, you're like, no, I'm done with you now.
Yeah, that's the whole other thing with like touring life is when you're that successful and you're that established, I guess you can say, you have the luxury to say, okay, I am playing, or let's say like the Dead shows, I am playing in the tri-state area for the next 10 days. I'm going to call New York my base camp. So I'll play Connecticut or wherever, fly back to New York. I'll play Saratoga. I'll play SPAC. Either get on a private jet to Manhattan or get on the tour bus to Manhattan and stay the next 10 days in my hotel. Whereas if, let's say you're touring Europe with him in the last tour, he may fly from London to a different area in England, but the band still has to go to their hotel, has lobby call. So the band is actually taking I guess a harder road or a more tough way. Sleeping, not a lot of sleep, but you have to get up early, go to the next area, sound check, do it again. So it's a tough business to tour life. But like you said, yeah, he plays one show, next show. Also because that's more time he could be relaxing and not in stress or an uncomfortable environment, you could say.
But at least with him that he loves to tour, and that's what he was born to do. Because I think one of the big things that, again, Alejandro and I talked about was for the 2019 World Tour. It wasn't backing an album. It was just John coming out and doing the show that he wanted to do and sound the way he wanted to sound and everything like that, which I think that's why for me it was just an incredible, and I still am like, I can't believe I never went and saw one. But
I'm for that episode, no opening act, and then when he came, I think also in Asia, the full stadium, the full 360.
Yeah, that was
which
really
is something
cool.
else, because you think about it, that's cutting off one, if not, it's cut off one whole side of a stadium. So all that plus, so full stadium seating basically, plus ground level seating, that's unreal. That's just do one set, take a break, second set. Oh man. And then play chronological order in the Asia tour. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that was a wicked set list he did, where he played everything from kind of start to most current release. That would have been a really fun show to see.
Even like when he did Continuum, because when the first Asia tour shows, when he didn't do Gravity, it got obviously, where's Gravity?
Yeah.
But maybe in my eye, I was like, oh, I don't really mind, because it's always like it's going to be a given, always. But it's fun to see in Continuum, in order, Gravity's the fourth song in the second set. I think, and he ended with, I think, like New Light or Carry Me Away, or I guess I Just Feel Like, whatever. But that's cool. Have a crazy solo in the fourth song of the second set, and then bring it back down for the remaining of the songs. And yeah, just doing Continuum in whole. I wish we both were at that shows.
I know, me too. I was so badly wanting to go to that one, and that's the thing when he talked about too. If I do 2 stops in a city, better get tickets to both, because they're going to be 2 completely different shows, and he was right. And I think the next time I do ever go meet him and talk to him, like, hey, why don't you do more shows in Canada? Come on. like Toronto's in Canada, but it's for some people it's very far away, or if you do one on each coast.
Yeah.
But Canada's got to get their stadium and rigs up as well to support these guys for sure.
It's just like, I mean, I remember when I was I think I went to LA Vintage that same day he did the first Continuum show in New York. And I was driving back with my buddy Ross, and I was like, oh my God, he's playing Continuum at Madison Square Garden. Oh my God.
He's not playing around this tour.
And then I think the gear nerds and us were like, oh man, he brought out the 2 Rock Silver Sterling, the 2 Rock Sterling Sig.
Yeah.
So he's almost recreated that same rig that he had for Continuum for that second part of the show.
And that, I think, is the perfect summary for why that tour was so special, because he wanted to stay true to that era, and he was honoring everything and just the little nuances that, he knew he's like 10% of my audience is going to understand what I'm doing and appreciate it. The rest of them won't know a difference, but me and that 10%, they're going to know. And it was almost like it was for us to be like, and him as well, obviously, but to stay that true was just so special. And I think he only could have done that by not obviously backing an album and just doing a tour backing himself.
Yeah. And then the gear part of it is like plays a massive role, because it could also be it's a huge feel thing, I could say. Like that those 2 Rock Sterling amps are just in your face, and that is a lot of the Continuum tone. I guess maybe that's how a lot of people, including myself, discover 2 Rocks. You're like, what are these amps that he's playing? 2 Rocks. Oh man! And then when whether it's like a Studio Pro or it's a Class 3 traditional clean now, it's like, oh man, this sounds just like Continuum.
Yeah, that's you want to get that sound, and you don't have a budget or have a boutique level budget. Plug in and position 4 and do the slow dancing thing, and for the most part, that's gonna get you insanely close just with that.
Yeah, and then you just play all Continuum, like, oh man, this is awesome. And now imagine, if you can play Continuum at home, imagine seeing it in Madison Square Garden or at the Forum here in LA, packed audience, just coming out second set and doing "Wait on the World to Change," and it's like, oh man.
Well, I couldn't imagine the hype when it, because I think he did like he did in both shows where like something came on and it goes like the Continuum, like it comes the banner and everything, and it kind of goes Continuum like front to back wherever, and you realize you were like, he's doing it, and the anticipation for it would just be, I'd be shaking. I'd be like, oh my God, this is about to be the best show ever.
I mean, watch the videos and just imagine, that's a different watch than actual being there. Because imagine just being there, lights traveling here, and you're 1, 2, 1,
2, 3, and he just comes in.
Yeah, and the whole roof explodes probably,
and just chills down your spine.
Yeah, and then you have to imagine. I mean, imagine at that point it maybe happens to you. You're like, oh, you think about all the moments you've watched the videos, all the moments you've listened to Continuum, and then now you're seeing it. If we're there, we're seeing it live,
and that's the next best thing to have gone and seen it on that tour, and arguably maybe even better because his playing's like just always improving and getting better, and he's doing it front to back, which even on the Continuum tour you never would have gotten to experience.
Yeah, even if we're not talking about Continuum, even like other songs, Search for Everything, for example, before the Silver Set came out, the shows in New York were like April, I think. The first leg of the tour, he was playing still the Clapton Strat for that solo, and it just punches you right in the face the first one of that solo. And translating an album version solo to a live solo is like, oh man, it sounds way just, that's a good analogy, just huge, regardless if it's Continuum or not, or how he started Heartbreak Warfare as opposed to how he started in 2010.
Yeah, and right? That Charvel just changed the whole song, I feel like, plus whatever he's using for that delay now.
Yeah, and then or you can say also like helpless solos, having the extended one at the end as opposed to a fade out on the recording. Vultures, including the OC3, still feel like they're on the Asia tour, having an ending jam where John, Isaiah, and David all solo over a groove. Um, it's just like, man, how can we make these songs just extend more, incorporating Queen of California and Fire in the Mountains together?
Yeah. And I think that's
Is
why it's so important to try and get out and see every tour because you're really seeing like a different incarnation. And that was always my kind of thing. Sadly, my first show seeing him, is the only show I've seen him on, was 2017. And it was a good show, but for me, it just was kind of like, it was a weird time period for his tone and everything a little bit in
yeah,
terms of it wasn't quite the classical one that came back in 2019. But I think that's why it's so important to try and get out and see everything because even now, like looking back on it, I appreciate that that was trying to stay very true to that album and the tones and everything back then, which somewhat deviated from continuing what we know. But then to move on to 2019, you get to go and see it again and see what they've all become, what they've all transformed to.
yeah, and then and if just all this, I mean, we're gearheads, so like, oh man, like the question was, oh, he's running three different amps into three different, or some 2x12, some 1x12 cabinets. It's like, oh man, so much stuff to think about.
And there's tons, and that's why we do what we do, and why we can spend so much time talking
Yeah,
about it, because there's all these layers you're just peeling back and trying to analyze and figure out. And it's
yeah,
just fun to try and emulate it in your own way as well, and hopefully, like, we all find our own sound in doing that.
yeah, and I think just that the fun part is like saying, oh, you have all this, but in reality, it's just maybe one thing. Like, oh, are you kidding me? That's it? Okay, cool, I'll take that.
Yeah.
And you're like, you look at your pedalboard, like, oh man, my pedalboard has 20 pedals on it. Oh my god, oh my god. Well, this solo was only this and that. Oh, yay.
I know, and I'm probably one of the worst for doing that because I'm really trying to emulate and duplicate his 2019 World Tour board right now, and I know that 80% of it's stuff I'm never gonna I might use every once in a while, but it's the fundamentals. And for me, it's just like I think talking to one of the other people in the lounge was that one person asked, I don't even know what to do. Do I want to try and duplicate his or do I want to build my own? And at least that's where I chimed in, being like, there's nothing wrong with duplicating it and finding your own sound. But I'm also a big believer in what I'm doing at the same time as building my own rig and things that I just want to try out and make sounds that I just want to try. So it's kind of like two sides of a coin, but they both are
Exactly.
great and a lot of fun.
Exactly. And then you may end up saying, oh, I have the same pedal, but I'm using it totally different than what he's doing. And it still sounds similar or in the ballpark. Um, I'm shoes like that also. Like, even you could say that I cloned his 2018 Dead Tour board with the Katana, Klon, TSN, Qtron.
And can we say that that is probably one of the cleanest looking boards I've ever seen? It's just
Oh
so
yeah,
organized.
that
It's beautiful to look at.
that's 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 all Mason. That's all him. He built that board for me. But it goes the same thing. Like, oh man, that board you can dial in for that stuff, but if you change the settings totally, it has a totally different sound. And plus with the timeline, you have all these delays and everything. Octave, you can do the polyphonic octave, or you can engage it also with your clean tone, and the Qtron is also another one that you can play a ton with. You can do the estimated profit stuff, or you can do this new Tom Misch stuff with it, or whatever. So yeah, it's all about like you may have the same gear, but use it in a totally different way that inspires you to play a different way. Which all comes back to, yeah, if you have his amps, two rocks, or whatever, you said that, yeah, that inspires me to play the guitar every day because I am playing a great sounding rig that I just want to keep on playing.
And that's 100% it. And that kind of leads to the exact same conclusion that when I was talking with Chandler and Ahmad in the very first episode, the best rig is the one that inspires you to play and to develop your sound and to get better. And the one that you can't walk by without picking it up and practicing or playing. And for some people, that's pedal for pedal duplicating a rig, and some people that's going in a completely different direction or somewhat inspired by it. And there's no right or wrong way to do it as long as you're inspired to play and you enjoy what you're doing at the end of the day. That's what matters.
100%. Like, it's like saying when you first pick up the guitar, buy a guitar that you want to stare at, like they want like, oh man, that's such a cool instrument, I want to play it, I want to pick it up. Even when you're finding the songs or people that you want to play like oh man, like for example, right now I'm taking a break from all of the Grateful Dead stuff. I'm playing Metallica because it's so much fun. I just want to plug into my Apollo, get a diesel super high amplifier, plug in my Les Paul, and just play Kill 'Em On, Ride the Lightning the whole day.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to play that professionally or whatever, but hey, oh man, you're telling me at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock after you walk the dog, come back here, just go crazy. And same thing with T-Rocks or whatever. You come in after a day's work or you're practicing, like, oh man, this sounds good. I want to keep playing more. Because let's say you have a T-Rock, you're like, oh man, this solo on this album was this rig. Oh, I have that. Let's try and find that tone. Or similarly, in the ballpark tone with what I have. Same thing. It's like, yeah, you can spend hours practicing and you may end up that same tone. You're like, oh man, hell yeah, I got that tone.
I totally agree with you, Gabe. I think for me, part of it too is that I like it as almost not cataloging, but like it almost freezes you in time as well, at least for me, that I know in the future with this 2019 board that I'm building, I'll always remember this time and a pivotal point, at least in my playing and my development and everything like that, and sounds that were really inspiring for me. And I think that's going to always be the case where I'll keep that board as it is, and I'll hopefully have other ones or whatever. But that one will always bring out a different style playing in a different, it's pulling from a different area of inspiration than when, I take my Les Paul and I take my Marshall and high gain channel and go in and just straight in ripping some Jimmy Page or whatever. It's just a way different pull of inspiration for me, and it will make me play differently.
It's like just like guitars, different rig, different amps. They're all ways you get the ultimate goal that you want to get, and they all have their own reason, their own characteristic, and then some of them have this combination works totally fine. This is the best combination of stuff. Whether it's a Strat into a Blackface Reverb or a Les Paul into a Blackface Reverb also, or Les Paul into Marshall or Strat into Marshall. It may work sometimes. Other times, like, this is the tone that I want. This is the rig. Thus making you play more, and next thing you know, you're 4 hours deep and you're tone drunk.
Yeah. No, of course, man. Well, Gabe, I think I'm just checking out the time here. I think that is one hell of a spot to end for today and to finish today's episode up, but I'd love to do more work with the lounge and building everything up and doing this. Like, this was amazing conversation. I think everyone who watches it's going to love it.
We can still talk about one day, like the Super Eagle stuff. For example, that's another episode.
Dive deeper into the Hot Rod Deluxe, dive just deep into Grateful Dead and the Dead and Company tones, and because that's another branch. And then you're such a big Visvim head, like we could chat about Visvim and all that stuff too. So there's so many topics to touch on.
I had to pre-order the magazine today because the pre-order ends, I think, on the 14th. But I got to pre-order the New Subsequence magazine, and yeah, oh man, Visvim's a whole different story. Like, oh man, what a clothing brand. The trunk show, oh man.
That's a rabbit hole for sure to go down. You just look at like his outfit he did for the Land Rover ad, and you're, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and the trunk show happened maybe 5 weeks ago, maybe like last month. The trunk show happened here. Cause I live 2.5 blocks from the store downtown in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And I walk there I walk past it almost every single day. And crazy enough, thankfully I made friends with a couple people that work there that helped me all the time I go. The Trunk Show, man, and that book that he posted on Instagram was the book they gave us to read in the couch section of the store, so you can see what you want to look at before you dive in all the pieces. And that was an experience of itself, and this was cool. I mean, if you want to get into Visvim, I find my girlfriend Avery that the first place to check, I'd say Grailed. This is a whole other discussion, but Grailed, find the pieces that you want specifically. Jumbo tees, uneven dye, ambless tees, crash denim, or brigadier boots, grizzly boots, FBTs, Christos, because then you can watch the item on Grailed, and when the price is right, you grab them. The other thing is, if you want to buy Visvim, it's kind of hard because there's only in the US, say, 3 stores. Canada has Haven. That's a big Visvim dealer. But I think the real fun is, or I say the real great entry point is if they have trunk shows, because trunk shows you only pay 30% down payment, so you're paying less. You're only putting a deposit down when you first get it, the pieces, and then you pay the rest upon delivery, which delivery varies. The delivery for spring 2021 was January through May. And they just say, you want this jumbo tee? You pay whatever the price is, and they say, all right, cool. Delivers in March. We'll give you a call. And then you come to the store, or they send it to you, and you just pay the remaining deposit, which is still less than retail you'll be paying at the end. Is better than paying $800. Yeah, $800 just today.
No, exactly. And I think that'd be a lot of fun to do a whole show where we talk about Visvim and acronym and all of his Nikes and everything like that, and just do a full style episode. That'll be a really good one for sure.
All that stuff is really cool, and the Visvim stuff is, I guess, more. I mean, I'm wearing a Amplicity right now. If we're diving into that, but it's so much fun, that kind of stuff. It's so much fun, and seeing how he styles it as opposed to how like Hiroki may style it, or people who work at the shop may style it. Like, I think it's so cool that in that Range Rover commercial that just came out, he's wearing a pair of Visvim boots in the outdoors, because a lot of the stuff for Visvim is meant to be worn and meant to be aged, in my opinion. And I talk to people there, like, it's meant to die over time, and it's meant to be worn in. That's what gives it the character, and I think that's so cool.
He's just embracing all of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, like even Hiroki, when he wears like the TWO boots that came out, I guess it's still released. His are all, I think his are leather, and his are all beat up. I think that's so cool. Or the crash denim when they keep breaking, or like now they're doing a lot of crash stuff, like the Grand River shirts that came out a couple weeks ago, or lumber shirts that are on crash jumbo tees and crash jumbo sweaters, crew necks, and a lot of this crash stuff is just aged, but it's so cool. And that's a different subject, but no, man, Visvim is it's so much fun. It's expensive,
oh yeah, and like I say, it's just another rabbit hole and another piece of, that kind of Japanese culture and everything that I'm still like dipping my toes into exploring and everything like that. Like the first like big like mare thing that I ended up tracking down, besides like some acronym Prestos, was the Camp High Spide Eye. And that I know you got the olive one. I remember chatting with you about that when I saw you got that, and it's a cool sweater, but it's nothing like Visvim, but I just wanted to get it to support him. But anyways, we got to talk about that on a whole nother day, because if we start talking about it now, we'll be on for another 2 hours. It's not a bad thing, but
I mean, unfortunately, there's only one. A friend of mine, his name Patrick. He's in New York. He uploads every once in a while Visvim videos about pieces that he gets, but I wish there was more like Visvim YouTube stuff so I can watch, but there isn't a lot of it. But
well, we'll have to work on making some of that content for the show for sure.
Yeah, if you follow the right accounts on Instagram, you can find a lot of people in that wear Visvim daily, and they wear it perfectly, and they get a lot of the new stuff that comes out, and it's like, oh man, some of their kids are in Visvim. It's like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's the dream, right?
Yeah, but I just think it's fun when you see stuff that comes out that Visvim puts the email out saying, well, update, these are going on the store this weekend, and people are who already ordered it are getting theirs, and they're wearing it, and like, oh, that's so cool. That looks so much better on person than it does hanging on display in the store. Yeah, that's a whole other discussion.
A whole other story. Well,
Yeah.
Gabe, hey man, thank you so much for taking the time to chat, and I've been really looking forward to getting some FaceTime with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in LA, you have my info. Hang out, go to the Visvim store.
Yeah,
LA
for sure.
Vintage.
Do the whole thing. Hopefully, see a Dead & Co show or something like that. And like we're talking about, getting a bunch of people eventually to go see Mare together would be a huge party.
Oh,
it'd be a lot of fun.
That would be like, and if for all this, if we all plan it out in the same section, from that point you can like have it in before, or if we go somewhere get an Airbnb, and we have oh, you came from England, or you call Alex and you came from England for this.
Yeah, Alex, bring your Sig 2 Rock with you.
yeah. Or I say, oh, Tommy, you came from New York or Tri-State area to LA? Hell yeah. You have a base camp.
Exactly. It'd be a wicked time, and it'd just be a ton of fun. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, especially if you stuck with us this long. Make sure to subscribe, join the John Mayer Gear Lounge on Facebook. Make sure you give Gabriel a follow on Instagram because he does so much on there, like phenomenal playing, tone demos, everything you can imagine. If you aren't following him, you need to get on that right now. Thanks, Gabe, so much again, man. Appreciate it a lot.